What's up, guys? Welcome to Whiskey. My name's Jeff. Now, this is a channel where I offer my thoughts and opinions on a specific whiskey, and if you stick around to the end, I'll be giving it a score as well. If that sounds interesting, hit subscribe down below. And with that out of the way, why don't we jump into our review? Today, we're looking at the Arran 14-year-old. Stick around. So we've got a fun one with us today. We're looking at another Arran. If you're a long-term viewer of this channel, then you know I touch on this brand quite often. They're not perfect, but they do make quality whiskey, and I'm a big fan of most of what they put out. This review is going to be a little bit bittersweet though, because we're covering a discontinued whiskey. This is their 14-year-old, and there's a period of several years where I'd say this was probably their superstar release. Unfortunately, back in 2019, Arran rebranded, and when they did, they opted to discontinue this one. 1/3 of this whiskey was matured in European oak casks, the other 2/3 in American oak casks. This is one of those whiskeys, I didn't drink enough of it while it was still around. I only really started getting into it after Arran scrapped it from their core range. If you're a long-term fan of this bottle, you'll be happy to know that you still can find it out there in the wild. There are some dusty bottles sitting on store shelves. Of course, that depends on where you are and how lucky you are. And even depending on your retailer, you might still be able to get this for a friendly price. However, the odds of that happening are getting smaller. This is the last bottle I bought from my local guy. He was one of the last people in the city to still sell this bottle at a reasonable price. Now, I could go elsewhere and buy it from other retailers, but they've jacked up the price and I don't want to overpay. So if you're a fan of Arran or a fan of this particular expression and you see it for a fair price, you might want to consider picking it up, because that's not a situation that's likely to last. Now, I mentioned earlier that I'm a fan of Arran, and that's true, but some of their stuff can be pretty hit or miss, especially when it comes to their no age stated expressions. Some of them are good and some of them are just okay, but if you see an Arran with an age statement, you're likely looking at a pretty good bottle. Currently, they have a 10, an 18, and a 21, and it's those bottles where Arran really shines. And I hope that down the line we get more aged expressions from Arran. Right now, we have a pretty big gap between that 10-year-old and the 18-year-old, and I would love to see a new teenage expression thrown into the mix. In the meantime, we've got our old 14 here, so why don't we hop into our review, see what this whiskey is all about, and in the meantime, if you could kindly leave a like down below, that'd be greatly appreciated. Arran almost never disappoints when it comes to specs. That's true of their old bottlings as well. This whiskey comes in at 46%, it's going to be non-chill filtered, and our color is natural, so checks all the boxes. Literally. Alright, so we have a nice natural color to our whiskey. We have the old style of Arran bottle here. I think the rebranding they did in 2019 was definitely an upgrade. I think the new bottles are great. I think the older ones are less great. I'm not necessarily against this design, but I'm not really vibing with these pastel purples. Presentation is going to be 2.5 out of 5. Non-chill filtered, natural color front and center on the label, which is great. Blurb on the back, smooth, rounded, richly rewarding, all that stuff. Not much to say here, really. I'm sad to see the whiskey inside the bottle go. Not so sad to see this bottle design go. I think Arran bottles look a lot better now. Let's try the nose. Fresh, clean, crisp, tart. Honey mustard, sweet ginger, some cereals in here. Sliced apples, powdered sugar. We have toffee in here, we have some sultanas, and we have some florals and some herbs in here. It's very vibrant. Now the palate. Slightly oily mouthfeel, sweet and sour, fruity and musty. Unripe peaches, minerals, malt, orange zest, mustard, earth, figs, baklava, and some kind of like cooling aloe vera thing going on. Now the finish. Okay, it gets nuttier here. Still slightly astringent, but it's worked in nicely. Malt, chili pepper, more baklava. There's like fermented stone fruit in here. Maybe a little touch of cumin as well, and this kind of effervescent ginger ale type note. Medium in length. So if you didn't figure it out yet, I really like this one. I think in many ways this embodies what the Arran distillery gets right, And back when this was available, it was a total bargain. It was not an expensive whiskey whatsoever. So kind of a shame that I didn't enjoy more of it back in the day. We have a bright, light, crisp character that I really enjoy. And what's interesting about this whiskey is that it is quite astringent. There's a tartness, there's a zestiness, almost some sour elements in here too, but they're worked in such a way that they actually complement the flavor profile, which is pretty hard to pull off. I also love the baklava, sweet pastry nuttiness in here, some great malty notes as well. This is one of those whiskeys that just kind of hits right, and at the same time, not a moment of this experience feels like engineered or mass marketed. Like, this feels like a whiskey for whiskey drinkers, not necessarily for the average consumer, which might have something to do with why they canceled it. I don't know. But regardless, it's got some of those challenging quirks or imperfections that always makes the whiskey experience more interesting. Overall, this is a good one. It's got personality. It's never boring or generic. It wears its character on its sleeve. It does have some challenging elements, but it's never difficult. I think if you're a fan of ARRAN and you like what they do, I can't imagine you having a problem with this one. Now, if we want to compare this to anything in the current core range, I'd put this somewhere between the Bothy and the 10-year-old in terms of profile. We have some of those tart, crisp elements that we see in the Bothy, and we have that layered fruitiness and complexity that we get in the 10-year-old. Obviously, this whiskey does do its own thing, and it is better than both of those whiskeys, but just a point of reference for those of you out there who are coming in from the current lineup. Yeah, I said it earlier, it's a shame that our new lineup didn't give us anything between the 10 and the 18. I love the 10-year-old, I love the 18-year-old, and I feel like a teenage expression would really round out the core range. It wouldn't need to be a carbon copy of this one, but having had this one, only to see it disappear, it does feel like something's missing right now. I don't know if ARRAN has plans to add anything to the core range down the line, but we can hope. I mean, how cool would it be to have a 14 or 15-year-old ARRAN pop up in the core range? I think that'd be awesome. In the meantime, we're left buying what's left of our 14-year-old here, and unfortunately that's something that's going to get harder and harder to do as time goes on. Anyway, before I start tearing up, I'll give you my score for this one. This is an 88 for me. I absolutely love it. It's my favorite expression from ARRAN below the current 18-year-old. That includes stuff from the old core range, the new core range, all of it. That being said, I don't think this whiskey is going to be for everyone. I mentioned earlier that this is not a difficult whiskey, but it can be slightly challenging. We have some tartness in here, some zestiness, some mild astringency. Luckily, all of those elements come together in a very cohesive way, but be aware of that. I also think this is an interesting time capsule. It kind of shows where ARRAN was at a few years back. ARRAN is a relatively new distillery, and we're still watching their style evolve in front of our eyes. And while I do like their new stuff, this is a great moment in that evolution that unfortunately is now gone. So check it out if you get the chance. This is a no-frills ARRAN. I think it's a great showpiece for the kinds of flavors that this distillery excels at. Again, it's like fresh and crisp and tart and clean. Yeah, wonderful stuff. So grab it if you can. So obviously this is a discontinued whiskey, so talking about value is going to be tough. A lot of you will not be able to find this one. It could be long gone in your area, or you might find it and it's overpriced, in which case skip it. I never recommend overpaying. But if you do happen to find it for its original price, or even just a few dollars or pounds more, I would still say go for it. I think this is a nice whiskey by almost any standard, and it's quite different from pretty much anything else you're going to get from ARRAN in the current core range, so definitely one to check out. Alright, that's it for me today, guys. Thank you very much for watching. As always, hit subscribe down below, click that little bell icon, and of course, smash the like. Now, I do want to hear from you guys. Have you tried our ARRAN 14 here? Where did you find it? How much did you pay for it? And was it worth it? Finally, down in the comments, let me know what you want to see me review next, and I'll keep it in mind for my upcoming videos. Bye, guys.